Hi there, and welcome to another wonderful edition of Live at 5. It's great to see you again, and thanks for joining us in the studio. For those of you watching on Facebook Live, and you want to join us in the studio, it's Zoom, and you need to put in the password 694348057. That's not a password; that's the meeting ID. I think they call it in Zoom language, and it's Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are now 8 hours behind Israel. Usually we're 10 hours. You know, when you talk about time zones, it's Greenwich GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. That's like the standard. So since the world was most populated by the Brits and the British Empire, so then time around the world is measured as before or after Greenwich, which is a town in England. You know, they used to say the sun never sets on the British Empire. And I think it was Beryl Wine who said, because God can't trust them in the dark. So that's why that was. But the British Empire, so they determine time. But we should determine time as how many time zones we are different from Jerusalem, right? So we're out here in Denver, Colorado. We're normally 9 time zones behind Jerusalem. So they're 9 hours. But because we've changed the clocks already this past weekend, and they haven't in Israel, so that's shortened now to 8. We jumped forward, and they haven't moved. So we're now only 8 hours behind Jerusalem until they change the clocks after Passover. I always thought it was wonderful that the clocks changing in Israel are based on the holidays. So they always make it a point to wait till after Passover to change the clocks, so that the Seder's a little earlier, and then later. And they wait till after Yom Kippur to change the clock, so that the fast of Yom Kippur ends a little earlier than a little later. So I just thought that was very nice. You know, that's the way to do it. I wish that we would have it that way too, but we don't. Anyway, so why did I say that? So we're at Mountain Standard Time, MST, 8 hours, 5 p.m. Join us live at 5. But of course, if you're hearing this, you've already joined us, so I'm preaching to the choir. Now, preaching to the choir is like, right? That's you can't get the preacher can't get anybody else to listen. So at least the choir is stuck there. They're on the clock, so they have to listen. So he gets to talk to, but I'm just happy to have anybody to come listen, frankly. So it's nice. Thanks for joining Live at 5. I had a few announcements that I did want to make. There was a mazel tov to Yaakov Rubin and family on the birth of a boy this week. Yaakov Rubin used to be a student here in our yeshiva here in Denver, at Yeshiva Teres Chaim, and his brother Shimshon is a good friend. And his father used to be the principal of Hill Academy. So they had a boy, which is nice. Very mazel tov to them. And also wanted to just share my wishes for a refuah shlema, speedy recovery and well-being. Blessings to Moshe Hirsch Ben Yaakov Shalamis. Should be well also. And just like to share those things. And if you yourself had someone who, if you knew had a mazel tov or had a need for our prayers, send their name in and let us know about it. And we would certainly share. But we always like to share in simchas and in Sarah's, lo aleinu. And if there's actually one of the commandments of the Torah is to help each other out, carry another person's burden. If someone's going through some hard time, help. And that actually works both ways, whether they're going through a difficult time or even a joyous time, get involved. Obviously people who are going through difficulties need help, but similarly, people who are going through happy occasions want company, and if someone was making a festive occasion, that they could celebrate, they have to celebrate by themselves, they wouldn't be so happy. It would take away from the joy and the celebration. So the same commandment applies to share in people's joyous moments also. So we'd much rather share in the joyous moments. We'd much rather have those joyous moments, but we do both. Today's sponsor, by the way, I'd like to just mention a sponsor on the show. Today's sponsor is Devil's River Rye Whiskey, one of my personal favorites. I have a good friend who's an investor in this whiskey. He came in yesterday for coffee and he brought me a couple of bottles. It looks like a huge bottle just because I'm holding it up there, but it's actually quite small. There's a little teeny bottle there. You can see how the size of it. So I'll need a few more. But this lovely new startup small batch Texas rye whiskey out of San Antonio is one of my absolute favorites. And if everybody will make sure and buy Devil's River rye whiskey, then we will, the Jewish Experience will not need to make any fundraisers, if you know what I mean. So our ship will come in floating on a little boat of rye whiskey. The Jewish Experience ship will float in on Devil's River. That's what we're waiting for to happen. And it seems very appropriate, doesn't it? The Devil's River. Rabbi, Devil's River, really? Yes, really. It's good. Try it. You give it a try. They sell bourbon and rye. I happen to be a big fan of both, especially the rye. Delicious. Now, this little bottle right here, as much as I'm excited about it today, of course, in about 10 days, this is going to be a big problem. Okay, let's talk about this problem. This is chametz. Yes, I know. It doesn't look like leavened bread, but it's chametz, okay? Because most whiskey, certainly Scotch, bourbon, rye, these kinds of things are grain-based whiskeys. And when you take grains, any of the 5 grains, and they are wheat, barley, rye, oats, and spelt, any of those 5, several of which are in here. Do you ever notice that with alcohols, they don't have to put their ingredients or the health information? There's how many vitamins and mineral, how much vitamin B3 is in this? Why don't whiskeys and alcohols have to tell you, what's the serving size? How many servings are in here? I want to know that. And how many calories of carbs are in this? Probably a lot. They should tell you. Anyway, this is made from, and I actually went to one of our local whiskey producers is called Laws Whiskey, Laws. It's a small batch from here in Denver, and it's actually made here. And you could go and take a little tour of the factory. It's not a big place. I actually have this splendid picture of me in front of all of these casks of aging bourbon. It was a big smile on my face. I felt very right at home there. And there was all these, and then in the other room, they actually produced the whiskey, and you could actually see these vats of fermenting, bubbling. It looks really creepy, frankly, but eventually it will taste very good. It's and they put corn in there because bourbon has corn in it. That's what qualifies it. One of the things that qualifies it is bourbon. And they have rye whiskey, and so that's a grain. Rye is one of the grains, right? And then there's of course barley in there, and there's some wheat. It's like 4 grains, and they put them together with liquid, and they sit in a big soup, and they ferment, and eventually they figure out how to make that stuff taste good. Now that though is the classic formula for chametz. How do you get chametz? You put water or a liquid together with one of the 5 grains, and then you just wait. Because the magic, or I should say the magic formula, what makes chametz is one of those grains and water and time. Time is one of the key ingredients in the problem of chametz. So that means if you put the grain, the flour together with the water, and then you knead it really quickly, and you throw it in the oven, and it bakes very, very quickly, then it's matzah. And then it's Pesach. It's good for Passover. It's acceptable, kosher for Passover. But if you take those same ingredients, you take that same flour, you put that same water, and you put it together, and then you just wait, and you don't bake it quickly, it rises, and it becomes chametz. 18 minutes. 18 minutes is the amount of time it takes for when you mix the grains. And in 18 minutes, if you just let it sit together by itself quietly in a corner, 18 minutes later, you got a problem. You got chametz. Okay. Now, this fact actually led our sages to draw the following beautiful idea from the verse about matzah. Okay. It says, ushmartem es matzahs. And we talked about this, I think, previously, that the Torah says you should guard the matzahs. Keep the grains away from the water, because grains and water and time, you got problems, right? So you got to protect that from happening. You have to harvest your grains and put them under lock and key, dry, so that no water gets in there. Because once the water gets to them, the clock is ticking. So guard. The Torah actually says, "Ushmartem es matzahs." Guard those matzahs. Guard that flour. Don't let those things become chametz, which would be a problem. Our sages say that if you look at the word matzos, the very same word can be read mitzvos, same letters, matzos or mitzvos. You can read it one of two ways. And ushmartem es mitzvos would mean watch your mitzvos. And a mitzvah haba liyotcha al tachmitzena. They said, if you get a mitzvah opportunity, don't let it turn into chametz. Don't let it wait around. You may miss it. You have to seize the moment, with alacrity, with zeal. The Greeks got famous for carpe diem, seize the day. You know what I mean? But really, the Jews, it was watch your matzahs, and that means the same thing. It really means the same thing. Watch your matzah. It means when you get a mitzvah opportunity, jump on it. You have to do it with zeal. You have to get excited and do it promptly. Don't let it sit around. If you let it sit around, it becomes chametz. So it doesn't really become chametz, but you understand the idea. That alacrity. We have a word for that, actually. The word is zrizus. Sounds like a funny Hebrew word. So the word of the day today is zrizus, zariz. So zuz means to move it. If I say zuz, it means it's move it, let's go. I wouldn't say that's probably not polite, but zuz, move it. And zariz means to move quickly in life, to do things promptly, with alacrity, with zeal, gusto, get it done. Don't let it sit around. That's zrizus is a fine quality. It happens to be that one of our great teachers of Musar, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, who wrote a famous book of Musar, perhaps one of the most famous books of Musar, called Mesilas Yesharim, the Path of the Just. So that book is divided up into 10 exemplary character traits that you should strive to accomplish. And the first one of them is this one, zrizus. The first thing, maybe that's the second one. So that's the second one. It's still good. Top 3, top 10. It's still good. Zrizus, but it's a very important thing. We need to not sort of let things sit. I've noticed in my own personal life, and maybe you've had this experience. If you think, oh yeah, and now I have to give it so and so a call. And if you don't do it, the next thing you know, you didn't do it, and time goes by and you forget about it, and then you didn't call them. But if you think, oh, I got to call that person, and you immediately do it, grab the phone, do something, do it promptly, call immediately. That's the alacrity. That's the do it and jump on it and get it done. And I need to, that's one of my New Year's resolutions for perhaps I should make for the new year. I got to work with alacrity. Don't let those phone calls that you need to make, don't let them sit. That's so that is just a reminder that, and it'll get us to today's topic. Today's topic, actually, I wanted to talk about shopping for Passover. One of my favorite things to avoid. Everybody, there's a lot of shopping that needs to go on in advance of Passover. I actually reached out to him. I don't know if he texted me back. I thought maybe if we would get him on the show. I reached out to none other than my friend Shua Horowitz, the proprietor of the Eastside Kosher Deli, to see if he could spare a few minutes in his busy pre-Passover day and get on live at 5 with us and describe how much energy and effort goes into making sure that the community has, a full Passover store to get all our stuff. It's a lot of effort. I remember his predecessor, previous owner of the Eastside Kosher Deli, my good friend Michael Schreiber, he would months and months and months of preparation. By the time we're already started to wake up and think about Purim, he's already finished his planning for Passover. He's already there. He's way ahead of the game. And the Eastside Deli was turned upside down at Purim time because they were already getting ready for Passover, and they do an amazing job. That there are so many nuanced details of Passover shopping, things that we need to have, and things we want to get a Passover version of, or we want to have for the Seder, or for one of the other meals, or for the week. So many different things, very nuanced things. And most of those things are not produced locally. So that means he's got to order them well in advance. They have to come on trucks from this coast or that coast or the other coast. They have to come from all over. And the next thing, he's got to remove all of the bread and the this and the that and the myriad number of products that they sell all year long, which are not Passover friendly. And they move those out of the way, and then they replenish the shelves with Passover stuff. It's a big effort. And he's very, very busy. So I thought just as a lark, maybe I'd see if he could spare a few minutes to get on the show. I don't know. We'll see. He probably hasn't even had a chance to read my text message yet. But we'll see if we could get him on and we could ask all our questions about how he does all this and how it works. It's a lot of effort. A lot of effort. And that's of course not the only place to get kosher for Passover items. There are other places, but it's my favorite place. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. Number one, there is a certain degree of supervision that goes into the whole process at the Eastside Kosher Deli. There is nothing sold in the store that's not recommended for you for kosher all year long or on Passover for Passover. So they pre-filter everything, which is really helpful. You don't have to think so much. You go in there and you get and you're getting what's good. And it's pre-filtered for you. So I like that. When you go to other places, you don't have that service. So I like that. And the other thing is we have to, first and foremost, whenever possible, we should support each other, community members in every way possible in terms of business, whether that means hiring a fellow community member, giving a contract in business, in the working world, buying and selling, partnering with, lending money to, etc. All those things we have to really prioritize to help and to engage and to get financially involved with our friendly and fellow community members first and foremost. That's our priority. It's an obligation and we have to take it seriously and we do what we can. And as long as it's apples to apples, that's what we have to do. If it's not, and you can't find something within the Jewish community, and sometimes it happens, then you could look elsewhere, but you have to look in the Jewish community first. That's the way it works. And the Eastside Kosher Deli will take good care of you. And wow, the great stuff. So we'll see if he'll jump on the show with us this week or next. I will try to get him in here, and he can tell you about all the, about all the effort and all the specials. But wherever you're shopping, let's put that aside. There are some obligations which we have just in terms of setting ourselves up for success, technical success for Passover. You got to get set up in advance. And as we've said at least once or twice over the last year, Live at 5. Preparation is the key to holiness. Do we say that? We've said that before, right? Hopefully you've heard me say that before. Preparation is the key to holiness, as well as, competitive prices are also very key to holiness. But preparation, what I mean is like this, in one of my favorite lines from the Haggadah, for my favorite song, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. So you love that, right? So one of the lines is, had he brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, Dayenu, that we would have still been reason to say thank you. Now that one is, of course, quite a head scratcher. What would be the point of going to Mount Sinai if not to get the Torah? Was it something special about, that particular desert mountain that we needed to go there for a little vacation, a little getaway, a spatzir? What was the point of that? Why would we say Dayenu that we got to go to Mount Sinai if we didn't get the Torah there? So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz beautifully answered, and he said, what we did on the way to Mount Sinai was we prepared to get the Torah. And if we prepared to get the Torah, that would be sufficient to say thank you anyway, had we not gotten the Torah. But we had gone through the effort to prepare ourselves. We had been ready to get the Torah. That preparation alone would have been valuable. We don't always appreciate and recognize and honor the preparation of something significant. So to prepare for it, that's significant. And when we don't prepare for something, we do it in a disservice and an injustice. The Talmud in this week's Talmudic Daily Digest said that when coming home, when you're showing up somewhere, you're arriving and you're about to knock on the door, don't barge in. It is very, very dishonorable to whomever you're barging in on to barge in on them. It's not respectful. Respectful thing is to knock and give people time to prepare for your arrival. To barge in, you don't barge in on something. Can you imagine if you were fortunate enough to get a meeting with the king, or fill in the blank, someone who you think a lot of, we don't have a lot of people to fill in the blank in today's world. But, whomever you think is that person that you really want to go see, and you finally got a meeting, when the time comes for the meeting, you wait until you're welcomed in, or you knock on the door. You don't just barge in and surprise them. You don't shock, you don't barge in. Even in the Purim story, in Megillus Esther was extremely loath. She felt like she was risking her life if she was going to barge in on the king unannounced. You have to wait till the king calls you. You have to prepare. There's time for that. You don't barge in. And I think the same thing is true when it comes to our holidays. You can't just like trip over and fall into a holiday and expect to, that's giving it its due. You have to prepare for it. No other holiday has as much preparation in advance as Passover, right? Will you grant me that? Every holidays, talk about holiday preparation. There is no holiday which you have to prepare for as much as Passover, because it's so big, it's so important, it's so special, and we want to honor it by getting ready for it. So we prepare. And one of the ways we do that is we go shopping. When in doubt, go shopping. When in trouble, shopping. Shopping is a good way to address lots of things. Shopping therapy. But for Passover, the shopping you have to do is a lot of probably a lot of foodstuffs and get ready. So you've got to get matzahs and potato starch and potatoes, eggs. You got to get your onions, on and on and on and on. There's a lot of great things to get. Go make sure and get shopping. You can't wake up late and do it. Now, I happen to know that there's a wonderful guide to some of these shopping things you need to think about, that's produced by our local kosher supervisoring agency, the Scroll K. They do a nice job. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. And if you'll just go to scrollk.org, just like it sounds, scrollk.org, you can download for free a digital copy of their recently published 2021 Passover guide. And that guide is so much great. And so it's like a short magazine, maybe 16 pages, but chock-a-block filled with every question that you ever wanted to ask, and all your Passover FAQs. I was just thinking about it. FAQs has become like a phrase that we're all comfortable with, right? The Seder is like your FAQs. I got 4 frequently asked questions. I got 4 of them at the Seder. But if you have Passover shopping FAQs, you need to take a look at the scrollk.org guide. Really, really, really helpful. And you can get it for free. And it'll tell you things like, can I use almond flour that doesn't have a special Passover kosher symbol on it? Does it need that, or does it not need that? And you want to know that. That's something that you're going to want to know. And some things need special kosher for Passover supervision. Some things don't. Why might things need that? Well, maybe the particular organization, the company that produces them, they simultaneously produce non-kosher for Pesach things. And then, you got concerns. So sometimes they'll say, well, sometimes they have 2 versions of an ingredient. One of them is an appropriate ingredient list for Passover, and one of them's not. And it depends on which one you're buying. So you might need that. And you have that. So just for an example, all year long, we drink the name brand sodas, even if they don't have a hechsher on them, because Coke and Pepsi and Sprite and those are known to us to be kosher. They generally do have a kosher symbol on them, but they are known to be kosher. However, one of the ingredients that generally all of them contain is a corn sweetener, corn syrup sweetener. And corn, according to Ashkenazi practice, is something we avoid on Passover. So if we're going to avoid that, so that means your corn syrups and any product that has corn syrup in it is not kosher for Passover. For us, we're not going to eat it or drink it. So the major soda producers actually do make a special line once a year for Jews for Passover, where they put the sugar back in the drinks and they take the corn syrup out. And it's like so nice. It's like you're getting the real classic Coca-Cola because it's got sugar in it and it doesn't have corn syrup. And that's because that's only the case when it has a kosher for Passover symbol on it. A couple of years ago, the Eastside Kosher Deli, they got, their one, annual shipment of it was like a pallet of Coca-Cola. Okay. It was like 2-liter bottles. It was literally a pallet. You know what that is? That's one of those big wooden things, and it's stacked up a bunch high. And that was it. They weren't going to get any more. And they said that right then and there, a couple of guys pulled up with a truck and basically bought the entire lot of it, one shot in one fell swoop. Not Jewish guys. But they were so excited. They were just Coca-Cola enthusiasts, and they really loved that old recipe with the sugar nut, the corn syrup, and they bought the whole lot of it, one fell swoop, lock, stock, and barrel. That's where they have those, what do they have? Those buy one, you buy 3 limits. You get a limit. You can't buy it all because we want to spread the wealth. We don't want everybody buying out our sugar, corn syrup free Passover Coca-Cola. But that's an example of a product. It happens to need, who would have thought? Coca-Cola? Are you kidding me? Coca-Cola is not chametz. Coca-Cola is not bread. It's not leavened bread. I got to worry about Coca-Cola. And the answer is yes, you do. Yes, you do. And you know what? I have no idea which product is which. You'd think I'd know, right? I don't know. You have to be an industry expert. The food industry is so complicated today. There's all these ingredients and stuff that's on the label. It's not on the label. And you don't know what the source is. And you have no idea. It's very complicated. And you know what? Don't stress. Don't get anxious about the whole thing. Just get their guide of scrollk.org guide and just look it up. And either the one you already have is kosher for Passover, or you'll find out and you'll go get it. You'll go get the one you want. You'll go get another one. And you have to know these things. And they really do a great job of guiding you. Certain things we don't eat at all. There's just there's no alternative. Sometimes, sometimes there are alternatives. Sometimes there's not. And sometimes it needs kosher for Passover supervision. Sometimes it doesn't. But you need to take a look at those things, figure it out, and and do a little shopping and get ready. Now, when you're thinking of buying new things, you also have to think about getting rid of the old, because getting rid of of the leavened bread and the chametz, so anything that is problematic for Passover. So you're going to get rid of it. Now, there are basically 2 real ways to get rid of it. Well, maybe 3. 3 real ways to prepare for Passover by getting rid of your chametz. Number 1, you could eat or drink it all. Okay. My favorite way to go, just that start out eating and drinking. Number 1. Number 2, if you haven't been able to get through it all, then you could, burn it, flush it. If you haven't consumed it, you could just throw it away. Very simple. Throw it away. Number 2. Actually, 4, you could donate it. Now, there are organizations that will collect your chametz and will distribute it to those in need. So you could donate it. That's a nice one. Number 3. And number 4, and many of you will take advantage of this, and I recommend it highly. If consuming, donating, or disposing of all your chametz presents a financial loss issue, like let's say, for example, if you have a lot of pricey Devil's River or other fine whiskeys in your liquor cabinet, and it would cost a lot of money to replace them after Passover. So you can take advantage of option number 4, which is you can basically sell it to someone else who someone for not Jewish, who is not obligated to get rid of their chametz, and they will own your chametz for the duration of Passover. And then you can acquire it back. Now, you could do this yourself, but it's recommended to have someone experienced do it for you. Be your agent to conduct that transaction. And so this is a time-honored practice. It actually emerged in European Jewish history, where one of the professions that Jews were allowed to have was actually whiskey production. And if you have a whiskey factory come Passover, you got a big financial loss on your hands if you had to get rid of everything in stock. And so this is a real binding transaction in which you simply don't own it. You actually sell it off. They would sell it off to some of the local yokels who would go and sell and drink themselves, sick for a week. And at the end, if they couldn't come up with the rest of the money, they would happily sell it back. And that was the way that this historically came into practice, and we could take advantage of it today. And it's just real simple. You can fill out a short form. In fact, there is a form right there in the scrollk.org guide. Go to that guide on page such and such, and you'll see the form is right there. You'll fill it out and send it in to them or to me. I'll take care of it. And you're appointing someone else as your agent to make that transaction for you. Then you just gather up your not kosher or Passover food, put it away in a box or a cabinet, tape it off, mark it, sold. And there you go. And you're done. And that's a good way to do it. And I highly recommend that. It's not too much trouble, not too much financial loss. Pack up your chametz, put it away, sell it. You have to go through the selling it. Packing it away is not enough if you don't sell it, but it does work with selling it. Fill out the form. The rabbi will sell it for you. He'll buy it back for you, and you don't have to worry. And that takes care of the problem. I highly recommend that. And today we're going to close with a little joke that reminds me of. There was a congregant that the rabbi saw him, and he was smoking. And the rabbi saw him and said, "Look, it's bad for your health to smoke. You shouldn't do it." And the congregant said, "Rabbi, don't worry about me. I sold my lungs to a non-Jew." Okay, folks, that's the end of our show for today. I hope you had I hope this was something useful, and I hope you have an excellent time getting ready for Passover. I wish you blessings of success on your preparations. It's on page 17 of the guide if you want to take a look. Have a healthy day and a holy day, and we'll see you tomorrow, God willing, on Live at 5.